Hey, welcome to the Robert Good Show, where we talk about deep shit, and we also wear hats. So today I want to keep talking about Credo ut Intelligam. I did a previous video on this, and I just want to bring home some of the insights from that. But let me just review a little bit about what I talked about in the other video. So we talked about how the idea of Credo ut Intelligam, I believe in order to understand, is basically a kind of foundational concept or paradigm that is used in Christian thinking. And what it illustrates is that in Christian theology and Christian thinking, you accept revelation, you accept things that God has said to be true, even though you can't actually confirm them in any way. And then you reason from those revealed truths, and you then come to understand not only those truths but also the world around you, everything. They become explanatory for everything. Okay, and I pointed out that there's a pretty big problem there with the verification piece, because it's just by definition you cannot confirm revelation from God, because revelation is something that comes from outside the world that we inhabit, right? And so the way we're accustomed to handling knowledge is that we investigate the world and we come to conclusions about information and knowledge and claims based on the realities of the world, right? But revelation comes from outside the world and outside the cause and effect universe that we inhabit. And so we have no access, no way of verifying the information that comes to us through a so-called revelation. And not only that, but we don't even have access to verifying whether there is such a being that is speaking to us, right? So it is actually difficult to tell the difference between revealed information and made-up information. And I think it's interesting that supposed revelations always come to us via third-party humans, right? Well, why is that? Like, why doesn't God just talk directly to everybody? Why doesn't he appear to everybody? Why isn't God sort of a part of everyday life? If he did that, then maybe it would be easier for us to believe these claims, because we would see them worked out on a more regular basis, and we would see that there was a consistency to them, just like the laws that govern the physical universe. But in fact, what it turns out to be is that it's always another human being that is telling us what a divine source has said. And again, by definition, that source can't be confirmed. So that all seems a little bit suspicious. But again, the main point is, again, and I'm saying this over and over again just so that it really sticks, because I think this is a point that Christians will acknowledge in some contexts, but in other contexts they just forget about it. And the point is that divine revelation cannot be confirmed as being divine revelation by human beings. Okay, and that is by definition, again. So there is no way to confirm it. And there's no way around this. Like, there is no way to surpass this. And when Christians realize this, they just state it. And they just say, look, we have no way to confirm this, but we should believe it anyway because it's from God, right? Which is just to assume what you're trying to prove. And so the important question that comes out of this then, at least for me, and this is really the Achilles heel of the entire enterprise of Christianity, is this: why should I believe something that can't be verified as true? Why should I believe something that can't be confirmed? Like, it can't even in theory be confirmed. Like, it's just completely unconfirmable. Why should I believe it? And I have to say that after many years of being a Christian, once I came sort of to that moment of clarity, I had to admit that I didn't have a good answer to it, to that question. Or the answer is no. I shouldn't believe it. There's no real compelling reason. Now, if somebody wants to believe those things just because it gives them meaning, that's fine. I have no problem with that. I'm not on a campaign to keep people from believing things, but I think that maybe the world would be a better place if everyone who believed unconfirmable things would just admit that they are unconfirmable and just say, yeah, I only believe that because it gives me meaning. It may or may not be true when if I really think about it. Because then that, of course, would sort of dial down, I think, the temperature a bit in terms of, the public debates and the cultural wars and the religious wars and religious conflicts. Of course, religious people are famous for being the people who have the highest level of conviction for their beliefs, when ironically their beliefs are those things which can least be confirmed. So what's that all about? Perhaps it is that since when you can't prove something, you kind of have to force yourself into thinking it's true, and by the time you do that, you end up thinking it's really, really, really true. There's some kind of psychological thing going on there. But anyway, for me, if you can't confirm something, even at least if there's at least the theoretical possibility of confirming it, then why should you believe it? Why believe that there's a God who is the Trinity? Why believe that Jesus was the Son of God, that he was God incarnate? Why believe that Jesus died for my sins? Why believe that I owe a debt of guilt to God? Why believe that I could go to hell? Why believe that hell even exists? None of these things can be confirmed in any conceivable way. So why should we believe them? I don't think we should. But in spite of all this, you still have people who defend the veracity of these beliefs and who try to argue that they are actually reasonable, in some sense provable, verifiable. So I want to just talk about a little bit about that, the kind of arguments that come out of that sometimes. Because honestly, after many years of being a Christian, I'm talking 50 years, and being a pretty well-educated Christian too, with a couple master's degrees and a lot of experience in teaching and everything, I was perpetually confused about this relationship between faith and reason, and how it is that on the one hand, faith is something that has to just be accepted as from God and can't be verified, and yet at the same time you can still craft arguments that verify it. Like, that makes no sense. It never made sense to me back then, and it still doesn't make any sense to me. And I actually don't think it's rational. I don't think it's a defensible situation. Now, there's I should make some caveats on that. Like, there is information surrounding revelation that can be, at least in theory, confirmed or denied. And one of those would be miracles. For example, the Bible talks about many miracles, right? Now, some of those might theoretically be confirmable or deniable. I don't know. I think that would be hard. Maybe something like the parting of the Red Sea, right? That's a big Bible miracle. That is such a big miracle that possibly you could actually maybe, and this is just hypothetical, right? But maybe you could find other accounts, other historical accounts outside of the Bible that confirmed it. Maybe you could find some kind of geological evidence. There's been some really wacky things about this. Like, there was this guy named Ron Wyatt, who was like an amateur archaeologist back in the, I think it was the 80s and the 90s. And he was always going around finding these really unlikely things that would basically be proofs of miracles. And so one of the things he supposedly found was a chariot wheel in the Red Sea. I think it was in the Red Sea, which doesn't quite match the biblical concept, because it's not clear that in the Bible whether the crossing was of the Sea of Reeds or the Red Sea. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. The point is that there was manufactured evidence to try to prove that it had happened, right? So possibly you could confirm that something supernatural or something unexplainable happened, right? That is conceivable, right? It is not by definition impossible. The problem is, though, that just confirming that something unexplainable happened isn't the same thing as confirming the revelation that is attached to that thing. Because the revelation is essentially an explanation of the event, right? So you have the event, which can be confirmed or denied, in theory at least. And then you have the supernatural explanation, or the revelatory content of the event. And in this case, it would be the revelation of it is that, God favored the Jews, and that he worked miracles in order to save them from the Egyptians, and that he was going to bless them and lead them out of Egypt. So it would be like confirming the intention that God stated supposedly earlier in the Bible. All right, so that would be the revelatory content. But historically speaking, you're only ever going to be able to prove, if even that, but you're only be able to get to prove that that the actual supernatural event happened. You're not going to be able to confirm the content, the revelatory content of the event. So the revelation is still going to have to be something that you're going to take on faith. And I think that this is something that is confused and unclear for a lot of people. And so a lot of people are used to reading their Bibles, and they read all the historical stuff in the Bible. They don't really know much about it. And maybe they wonder, well, is all this true or not? And then somebody comes along and says, oh, but actually, the town of Bethlehem really did exist. There really was a guy named Pontius Pilate. That can be confirmed from Roman history. It was the guy who crucified Jesus, the Roman official under whom Jesus was crucified. There are various events described in the Bible that can be confirmed as that really did happen, or it's very likely that thing happened. Okay, and I'm not saying they're necessarily miracles or just historical data, but people hear that and they think, aha, therefore that confirms the message of the Bible. Well, no, it doesn't. Just because the Bible describes an event that actually happened, that doesn't mean that you've confirmed the truth that a deity has spoken revelation. Of course, you can never confirm that. That is just unconfirmable. We already talked about that. So I think that's just one of those sort of confusing sort of apologetic strategies that kind of works, but it's only if you don't have clarity on what it is that you have to accomplish, right? Another one is, a lot of times there's a confusion between providing a proof and providing plausibility. Okay, and so for example, you say with the resurrection of Jesus, you might say, I don't believe that Jesus rose from the dead. I don't believe in the resurrection of Jesus because I've never seen anybody rise from the dead. As far as I know, nobody's ever seen anybody rise from the dead aside from that one story, and so it just seems highly unlikely to me. Somebody probably made it up. And so then somebody answers, an apologist might answer, say, well, I know it seems unlikely, but think about it. If God really does exist, then what's the problem? Because God is powerful and he can do anything he wants to do, right? Even raise people from the dead. So actually that's not so irrational. And so that can seem convincing, but in fact, it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors, right? Because what have they actually just proven? They haven't proven anything. All they have done is provide a plausible explanation. But a plausible explanation is not the same thing as verification. There are a lot of plausible explanations, a lot of plausible things that might happen, that might have happened. All you're saying when you're saying plausible is something that is not self-contradictory. That's a far cry from something that is actually a verification or verifiable. And so really all that these apologetic strategies can do is confirm information surrounding the act of revelation, and remove sort of seemingly self-contradictory elements surrounding the revelation. Yes, it can do that. For example, you might say, like, someone would say, well, I don't believe in the Bible because of evolution. And then somebody might say, oh, well, that actually there's a way to square evolution with what the Bible says, right? And some people believe that, right? And so, again, that's just a plausibility. It's not proof, right? The Bible still can't be verified. The miraculous, the revelatory claims of the Bible still can't be verified in any way, in any sense. Yeah, so that's kind of the rub of it. And I don't know, as you interact, if you're interested in these things, I encourage you, as you interact with and think about Christian claims, just follow that ball, the ball of confirmation. Like, whenever anybody is trying to prove something about Christian claims, then just ask yourself, where's the confirmation piece? Where's the confirmation piece? And I think you'll find that most of the time, the confirmation piece, and specifically how is that the revelation itself is confirmed, I think you'll find that the question is typically neglected. And people are talking about things that surround it, but they're never talking about the actual revelation. And the reason is that you can't confirm it. It's just not confirmable. Well, anyway, I hope thanks for spending time with me, and I hope this was helpful in some way. Then please leave comments if you would like to. I like to read them. And the like button thing. All right, see ya.